Yes,
I
who
need
said
serious
he
help.
had to be there?
Right. Cody, go ahead in Ohio. Cody, everyone.
Hey now, Howard. Can you hear me okay?
Hey now.
Hey, man. Hey, so I'm a critical care doctor in Cleveland, Ohio at, shall we say, a major health system that you've heard of and you guys frequently quote. And the reason I'm calling in today, first of all, I want to say I'm a first-time caller, long-time listener. I love you guys. You helped me get through medical school. You helped me get through training, putting in all the long hours, being able to listen to you guys. Like, I don't want to overstate it, but you guys have saved my life multiple times just by making me laugh. And in a time like this, we are drowning and we are in hell. And people don't understand not only what's happening to people, patients across this country. On an average day, I'm admitting 5 to 10 people to my ICU. 75% of the patients in my ICU are on ventilators. When they get on the ventilator, on average, they're on the ventilator for 10 days. And people don't understand it. And 2 days ago, right before I left work, I had another patient who was dying from coronavirus. And his son looked at me, his family's, fortunately, our hospital is still allowing families to come in and at least stand outside of the room to see their loved one. And patient's son looked at me and said to me, I know he has coronavirus, but why is he so sick? And it's heartbreaking. People don't understand that coronavirus alone is enough to kill you. Sometimes patients have other things going on, but most of the time it's just coronavirus. And I have to tell you, Howard, I am not an emotional person. I'm relatively resilient. I came home that night and started talking to my wife about it, and I started crying. I couldn't help it. It's been 9 months of hell. And, I'm not unique. We have lots and lots of doctors, nurses, respiratory therapists, all disciplines of medicine. And we are drowning. We are drowning in work. I get on Facebook and it fucking kills me. You look at all these people who want to pretend that this shit isn't real. People want to pretend like they can just go about their normal lives. And it's so hard to work every day knowing that we're drowning and to spend so much time planning. I help direct the ICU and we spend so much time planning for how we're going to take care of additional patients. And at the same time, I come home and I look at things like Facebook and you have all these assholes out there who are just ignoring things, pretending like it doesn't exist. And I know, they might be okay, but they have parents, they have grandparents, they have family members that could die from this.
But you're not just seeing a doctor. You're not just seeing old people dying. You're seeing some young people too, right?
And not only am I not just seeing old people and seeing young people, Howard, the truth is at this point, 9 months into the pandemic, we still don't know who's going to get sick and why. I see patients who are old in their 90s who come into the hospital and have relatively few symptoms. They might not even be on oxygen. We've had patients who have been incidentally diagnosed in their 90s. And I've seen the worst case that I saw in a young person. I saw a 21-year-old patient who came into our hospital with coronavirus. I know you guys have talked about it before, but patients with coronavirus can develop what's called cardiomyopathy, which is inflammation in the heart related to the virus alone. Up to 25% of patients can develop it. And I saw a 21-year-old in the hospital for one day who cardiac arrested. When he cardiac arrested, fortunately, we were able to get him back. I had to send him to the main campus of my healthcare institution. I'll just say it's the Cleveland Clinic. I know you guys know the Cleveland Clinic. So, fortunately for that patient, he was put on what's called ECMO. ECMO is a heart-lung bypass machine. It's essentially an artificial lung and an artificial heart because both his lungs and his heart were so sick that without it, he would have died. And fortunately for that patient, he got better. But again, this was a 21-year-old with no medical problems who had a cardiac arrest in front of me and almost died.
Are you seeing a surge from Thanksgiving now?
I will tell you that, yes, we've seen a little bit of a surge. Fortunately, and I don't think it's going to hold because, again, people have not been careful. Over the last week, our numbers have been relatively stable just this week, but for the last 2 to 3 weeks, we've been surging. I will tell you that I've had multiple days last week where I had no ICU beds to put patients in. And by far and away, the bigger issue we're dealing with at this point, not just at my hospital, not just at the Cleveland Clinic, across the country, is providers are getting sick now. Doctors are getting sick. Nurses are getting sick. I myself, last week, I was sick. I thought I had coronavirus. I got both my 5th and 6th COVID tests while I was out sick. And fortunately, they were negative and I was able to go back to work. But the thing about it is we're running out of nurses. We're running out of respiratory therapists. Those are the people that help manage the ventilator. They're the ones that give the breathing treatments to the patients on the ventilator. They're the highest risk of all the medical disciplines to contract coronavirus at work. And one of the respiratory therapists might take care of 10 or 12 of my patients on the ventilator. And if they're out sick, it's a big problem. And we can make more beds. Frankly, physicians, we're not the problem right now. You can find more physicians. You can cross-train people. The biggest issue we have right now is we don't have enough respiratory therapists and we don't have enough critical care nurses to take care of all the patients. The other day, I had a couple beds in my ICU, but I didn't have a nurse to take care of patients. And if you have all the beds in the world, but you have no one that knows how to take care of the patient, those beds don't matter.
Yeah, one of my daughters works in a hospital, saw somebody dying and whole last rites thing, and she's just been wrecked. And then I have another daughter who's a healthcare worker, and she's seeing crazy shit too. But tell me about this special cocktail that Trump got that I think saved his life. Do you see that drug at your hospital? In other words, are you able to give that, whatever that crap is, that is a special kind of?
You don't have antibodies to give people.
What is that?
So I will tell you, I think what you're talking about that I believe Donald Trump got is a medication called Regeneron. And I'll admit that I don't know much about it. I haven't seen it. My health institution has been doing ongoing studies on multiple things like stem cell therapies, things like antibody treatment.
Yeah.
The thing about it at this point is, 9 months into this, we still don't know the magic bullet. And what I will tell you is certainly at this point, there are only 2 medications that have solid scientific evidence backing them for patients that get as sick that they need the ICU, like the patients I see that end up on ventilators. And that's a medication called Decadron or dexamethasone, which is a steroid that has multiple studies that shows an improvement in mortality for patients who need oxygen. And the other medication's been approved is remdesivir, and that might get patients out of the hospital a little bit sooner. Everything else that's being given at this point, everything else that's being offered in any hospital, everything else that our, retarded president might have gotten. I hate to say that, but, I'm no fan of Trump, and I know you aren't either, but everything else that's being given at this point.
How is it that Trump is busy going around the country talking about whether he won the election or not, which is absurd? It's been verified. There's enough people who know, the whole thing's so stupid, and not be talking about this COVID. I don't even hear a word about it from him, except just go ahead and live your life in a dangerous way. That's why the hospitals are complete. This is treasonous what's going on right now, telling people to run around, go to rallies.
It may not be treasonous, but it certainly is criminal.
It certainly is.
Yeah. Howard, I 100% agree with you. I think, unfortunately, we have not had leadership in this country for the last 4 years. Whatever your political beliefs, our response in the United States to coronavirus is nothing short of criminal. The fact that we have had, we're nearing 300,000 people dead. We're at a point where every single day we have between 2,000 and 3,000 people dying. We are having 9/11 every day in this country. And unfortunately, at this point, even with that, the vast majority of people don't care. And I think some of that is selfishness in America. I think unless it's affecting us, we don't care. And I think it's very American for us to get bored with things. The fact that this has been going on for 9 months. And at this point, it's as bad as it's ever been. In fact, it's worse. I will tell you, I can't speak to New York as much, but in the state of Ohio right now, the current trajectory we're on, I don't expect this to peak, meaning to get as bad as it's possibly going to get, this current surge that we're on, until the middle of January. And what that means, and I don't mean to belabor it, but what that means is every day that I go to work in the ICU, I have the worst professional day of my life. And I don't expect that to get better for another month to month and a half to get better at all. Things won't be as good as they are today, which is already, again, I don't want to overstate it. It's hell. Things will not get this good again for probably 3 months. And that's what people don't understand.
Yeah, they're saying this is not the peak where we are right now.
That's right.
The
No,
peak is
Listen,
coming.
what has happened in this country, when I'm looking at Australia, that is essentially over the COVID virus. They've got it so locked down and under control that people are actually getting back to normal because they've spent the last 8 months really staying on top of this thing. That's leadership. That's, leveling with the people, telling them what to do, telling them how to get rid of this thing. Over the last 14 days, COVID cases are up 15%. Hospitalizations are up 25%. Deaths are up 48%. This thing is real. And you hear this doctor, Cody, on the phone. He's telling you the truth. He doesn't have any skin in the game. He's not looking to lie to you. I don't know who these people are. I think everything's a conspiracy.
And I still have people, unfortunately, Howard, in the hospital, people who don't believe that this is real. I've had patients, not patients themselves, but I've had family members who say that we're making it up because they hear what the president says. The fact that the president of the United States said that doctors get paid more money to sign death certificates for COVID is ridiculous. It is insulting to my profession. It's insulting to all the hard work we're doing. And when we're going to work every day and I'm watching multiple patients every day die from this, I'm intubating multiple patients a day. And the other thing people have to understand is the people I work with, the other doctors, the nurses, the respiratory therapists, and on, pharmacists. I mean, I work in a very large multidisciplinary team. Those people are putting their lives on the line every day. People don't understand that even though I have personal...
You got a guy in charge who doesn't know from hard work. You got a guy in charge who doesn't know about hard work. I mean, let's face it. I mean, people who... No clue. All right. Dr. Cody, thank you. It's a depressing thought, but I'm glad you called in. Wait a second,
Thank you,
Cody.
Howard. I love you guys.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, Cody. And thank you. And stay strong. I mean, man, I thank you for everything you're doing. These doctors are really putting it all out there.
The whole medical staff, the doctors.
Yep.
The
Thanks,
nurses.
Cody.
Can I say just one more thing, Howard?
Sure. Absolutely.
I think, the biggest crisis beyond what we're dealing with right now, the crisis that is yet to come that people really don't understand is I myself, again, I consider myself to be quite resilient. I have, unfortunately, I'm 34 years old. I've been a critical care doctor. Now I'm in my 6th year as a critical care doctor. I'm like your friend, Dr. Lou. I did my undergrad and my medical school in 6 years. And at this point, I've seen lots of death. I've seen lots of terrible things because I work in the ICU and it's what we see every day. But I've never, ever seen anything like this. I've never had to see so many people die a day. And again, I think I'm relatively resilient. But what about the other doctors I work with? What about the other nurses? What about all these other healthcare providers? The oncoming wave of post-traumatic stress disorder, burnout, people that are going to leave the profession because they can't take it anymore. It's going to be huge. And again, in this country, we already have a criminally low amount of mental health services. The other day after I talked to my wife and I started crying because I've had 9 months of pent up emotion, I got in contact with people I work with. And at my hospital, I'm going to try to set up a support group for the people I work with, other doctors, other nurses, where the people that I go to battle with every day against this virus, we can try to sit down and talk to each other to talk about what we're going through. Because unfortunately, most people don't understand what we're seeing every day. And that's going to be a big, big problem that a lot of people just haven't recognized yet.
You make a really good point. I'll tell you why. I was thinking about this the other day. You got doctors like yourself. Now, let's face it. Our medical doctors are the creme de la creme of academics. In order to get into medical school, you got to be pretty fucking smart. How many of these guys like Cody do you think really want to be on the front lines? They could take a cush job somewhere and, see patients privately. They don't have to be at the ICU. Cody doesn't have to be at the ICU. I guarantee you, if he put out his resume, he'd have a job in 10 minutes or he'd set up his own practice. This is what's going to happen to these medical professionals. I really do worry about it. And what Cody says is true. When you look at a country like Australia, that they're already having live concerts again. How does Cody feel like he is in this with the United States government when the president of the United States is telling people, don't really worry about it. Who gives a fuck? Don't wear a mask. You're a pussy. How could a doctor work in conjunction? The doctors are going to start saying to themselves, well, if the president doesn't care and the government doesn't care, what the fuck am I going to be doing? And, it is such a breakdown of the system. We are in such big trouble. With the opposing point of view, Cody, right now is Alex Jones. He says that you are a crisis actor. Listen, you got to allow this. Go ahead, Alex. Here we go. Go ahead, Alex.
Infowars.com. Infowars.com for the Planet.tv. Howard, I would like to congratulate this Dr. Cody on being an excellent crisis actor. I think he should definitely win the Bilderberg Award for supporting Soros and the prime controllers in their coronavirus hoax to inoculate people with the forced Bill Gates vaccination inoculation.
Infowars.com.
Have you no decency? I mean, my goodness, this guy's pouring his heart out. What are you saying?
I'm saying he needs to speak about Bloomberg, Bezos, and the others in the militarized testing with the brain swaps and Bill Gates' DNA mapping, the 5G electromagnetic wavelength systems, the DARPA program from 1962. This is what you need to be speaking about, not the corona hoax virus. Infowars.com.
All right. Thank you, Alex. Is there anything, Alex, you can recommend to the doctor that we can take to get rid of this coronavirus?
There is one drug known to cure coronavirus on contact, and it is the Ultra X9 bone broth. That's right. Made from rotten chicken bones and sand at Infowars.com. It's going to make you feel like $1 million. It will cure coronavirus on contact. Infowars.com.
Thank you. There you go, doctor. Okay.
Well, now you have the other side.
There you have the other side. You always have to present the other side. You always do. But Cody, you're fantastic. I can't thank you enough for helping the people of Ohio. It's a tireless effort, and I got to tell you something. I feel your pain because if I was a doctor on the front lines and I saw my government can't even be run properly, that we can't even give the message to wear a fucking mask. I mean, I've never seen a country more poorly run than this one. It's a disgrace. It's a disgrace. This was
Howard,
something.
I know that you've been angry about this, and I have to say, just imagine from my side when I do what I do every day, and then I go to the grocery store, and people have their fucking masks hanging underneath their nose, if they're wearing one at all.
I know.
You have the president still telling people, I don't know if it works. I don't know if it doesn't. It's horrible what we're dealing with. Even if a mask, you talk to people you grew up with on Facebook, and some of them are morons, let's be honest about it. But when I still have people arguing with me about whether or not they should wear a mask, let's say a mask, and I'm not saying this, but let's say a mask is 10% effective. Jesus Christ, putting a mask on your face, it has absolutely no health consequences. Why are we still having to talk about this at this point?
It's
Such
exhausting.
an embarrassment.
It's an embarrassment. The country's an embarrassment. The people of this country are an embarrassment. Not all of them. You know which half I'm talking about. We're dealing with a nation of morons, and we are an embarrassment.
And I want to thank Robin for her service and her service to this country, her time as a nurse. I have seen nurses who go above and beyond. Nurses are very special, but in all my time in medicine, the one thing I have to see is I have never ever seen a nurse straddle a patient the way that Robin has. And
right.
That is incredible.
Here.
She's really gone above and beyond with that.
Let's toast to that. Raise your glass of booze and say, cheers to Robin Quivers, who is always a national hero. She when she was a nurse, she pleasured
going above and beyond.
Right. She wanted to show this man that he was still a man, and she went above and beyond. By the way, Eric,
I've seen many givers, but never to that level. Never to that
Big dick energy.
Yes, Robin, big dick energy, of course. Keep saying that. You love dick. I know that. All right.
Okay.
4 inches is fine.
All right. By the way,
so if he owns this joint, how come it ain't called?
What am I hearing here?
I don't know what that is. What is that?
I don't know. Eric is on the phone, Cody. He is a COVID body removal specialist. Eric, what is that?
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, good morning, Howard. Good morning, everybody. I wouldn't say it's a removal specialist. It's just a removal guy. It just happens to be COVID is popular now, so that's become the speciality. You know what I mean?
So how many bodies, where are you in Florida? How many bodies have you removed?
Well, I'm in the middle of like Orlando and West Palm Beach. Let's say that. That's where I'm based out of.
And how many bodies have you moved? I mean, how many bodies have you removed?
When? Last night, this morning, I took 6 to yesterday. I had 3 going one way. I mean, let's say 6 yesterday, 3 had COVID. So that was yesterday for 1 run. It's too broad a question, Howard.
Right,
I tell you this, I got 18-wheelers. I got 18-wheelers behind funeral homes, refrigerated 18-wheelers behind funeral homes. I've never seen that in 20 years. It's insane.
Wow.
That guy who's just that awesome, that guy Cody, that guy, my heart goes out to all. My wife's an RN, and she's deep too. She's just as deep as me. And I'm the cleanup guy. No one ever says, let's also thank the guy who's picking up these bodies. I see way more than that guy. He just puts them in the morgue. I go to every morgue,
How much money can a body remover make? That seems like an interesting career. How much money do you get for that? Can you pull down a year?
Not as much as I should, I mean, it's $25, $30 an hour on a good, depending.
And is it hard removing bodies?
There's days I work 10 hours. There's days I work 2 hours. So it all depends, sir.
Yeah, I see. It's hard work, huh?
Hard isn't the issue, Howard. How hard work is obese people. COVID people are cakewalks. They're usually old and this or that. No. The obese people, Howard, are hard work. When I have to have 4 people in vans and walls cut out.
Jesus.
That's hard work, Howard.
You're pretty upbeat for a guy who removes dead bodies, I got to say. All right. Thank you very much, Eric.
Howard, talking to you has been something I've been pushing for 20 years. So that's awesome. So it's brightened my day.
Thank you.
And thank you for what you do, because you are forgotten.
That's right.
Robin, thank you for telling me the news for 20 years and keeping me informed, Robin. I miss it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Eric.
Yes, thank you.
Eric in Florida.
Thank you. Thank you.
No, thank you.
Hey, Howard, am I still on the line with you there?
Yeah.
It's Cody.
Yes, Cody.
So first of all, I want to thank that guy as well. I mean, what he's doing obviously is no cakewalk. He brings up another good point. One of the other treatments that we offer for patients who have very low oxygen levels, even on the ventilator, is what's called prone positioning, where we actually flip people over onto their stomach while they're on the ventilator. And that is difficult. It's potentially life-threatening because, as you can imagine, when you're hooked up to a breathing machine, if we flip you over and the tube comes out, and the reason we're flipping you over is because your oxygen levels are very low, there's a very real possibility those patients could die. And where it becomes exceedingly difficult is the obese patients. So when we flip a patient over, typically we have 7 people in the room doing it. And even then, sometimes it's not enough. We've had patients that have been so large that we actually can't even offer that treatment to them because we can't physically do the procedure.
Jesus, I got to tell you, what you're describing is a national nightmare. It is just
a crisis. This is and you, Howard, I think, I don't want to continue to contribute to your fears, but the truth of the matter is the way you've been describing things over the last 9 months. Again, I listen to your show every day. I love your show. It has gotten me through some really hard times. It has gotten me through some dark times. What I do, you have to have a dark sense of humor because otherwise you couldn't do what I do every day. But the thing about it is you're not over describing things. When you say that, this is a crisis, if anything, you're underselling it. This is the healthcare crisis of our lifetime right now. We hope this is the healthcare crisis of our lifetime. There's lots of emerging pathogens and viruses that constantly put us at risk. But at least, in my lifetime so far, this is the closest we've ever come to something like the 1918 influenza pandemic. This is the healthcare crisis.
The shocking part is the shocking part is that there's so many people who la-di-da through this thing. I mean, I have friends who I consider very intelligent who are like, "What are you doing hiding in your house? What are you doing?" I mean, they ridicule me. They go, "When are we going to see you? What, do you got Beth locked up in there?" I go, "No, Beth's scared too." If you don't have to do anything, you stay in your house. And if you have to do something, you be careful and you wear a mask. I mean, it's so fucking simple, but, you got so many nitwits. I mean, you're
100% right. It's very simple what you have to do. And I think, again, you should tell those people when they tell you, what are you doing? Why aren't you coming out of your house? Tell them that they are lucky. This is the thing that I keep trying to describe to people that don't understand it, because I've become angry at this point. I've become cynical, and because that's where we're at. I will still go to work every day. I will take care of as many patients I can as long as I am healthy enough to do it. There is nothing that's going to stop me from taking care of my patients. But at the same time, the people that are telling you to come to their parties, the people that are telling you to leave their house, the people that are minimizing what you're doing, those people are assholes. And they need to know
they're
that.
assholes.
And
the guy in charge is talking to the idiots and telling them, hey, don't worry about it. Don't worry, be happy, go out, come to my rallies. And this is the message. So you don't have a partner in this. All right, Cody, thank you. You've said it all.
And that's the thing is people need to understand that the reason that they aren't taking this seriously at this point is because they have the luxury of never having to see this firsthand. They haven't had to watch people die from this. It is horrible. It is lonely.
Well,
these people can't have their family members in the room.
Cody,
it's horrible. And
you know
people that don't understand it, it's awful.
During the Vietnam War, on the news, they used to have camera guys. Right there, you'd see guys getting shot. You'd see them getting killed. And I'd be eating my dinner, watching this with my mother. And all of a sudden, she turned to me. She goes, "You're not going in the Army." Because if, they had a draft back then. They should follow you with a camera and watch people every night on the news. Just watch people dying of COVID, watch them choking. What's it look like when someone's dying of COVID? What did they can't breathe and what are they gasping for air? Is that how it looks?
Well, the thing I would tell you, Howard, is it's unpleasant to watch anyone die. And,
right.
Yes, you are correct. That is, having coronavirus is a horrible way to die when you get sick enough to die that way.
That's
the thing
right.
I will say is still as
put it on the news.
When I have patients who I know are going to die, my obligation as a physician is to relieve their suffering and do everything I can to make sure that they are comfortable. And I always do that to the best of my ability. And so you don't see a lot of people who are literally choking to death because we give them medication, opiate pain medication, other medications to make sure that they don't suffer and that they're as comfortable as we can make them. But the thing that kills me every day still is we have something that is truly preventable, that if you look at other countries, that, as you pointed out, places like Australia, who have been very aggressive about what they're doing, they're back to living normal life. And at this point, we're now 9 months into this, and we're still having people die every day from something that is preventable. If everyone would just stop thinking about themselves and care about each other for just a short period of time, a couple of months, if people really wore their masks and stayed in their house, this would be over.
What is it like when a patient realizes they're going to die alone without their loved ones nearby? They can't say goodbye. They're completely isolated. I wish they'd show that on the news.
I'm trying to hold it together. Yeah, I know. I'm trying not to cry right now because if I think about what I see every day, most people could not handle it. And the thing I will tell you is I have had not one, not two, not 10, dozens and dozens of patients at this point when I've had to walk in the room and tell them, I have to put you on a ventilator because your oxygen levels are so low. If they're still coherent, they look at me with horror in their eyes. The very first patient that I intubated was the first patient we intubated at the Cleveland Clinic. I was the first one to intubate somebody with COVID. Talk about scary because we didn't know what to think at the time. And this poor woman looked at me no less than 3 times, looked me in the eyes and said to me, I'm not ready to die yet. Please don't let me die. And that's not unique. She's not the only one. I hear that at least once a week, sometimes multiple times a week, sometimes multiple times a day, where I have to go in and put people on ventilators and they look at me and I know that they are scared to death. And what can I say to those people? I always tell them the same thing, which is I will do everything I can to get you better from this. But the truth of the matter is some of them don't get better. And it doesn't matter if you're young or if you're old, even young patients, if you end up sick enough to end up on a ventilator, if you're young, meaning under the age of 65, about 10% of those patients die. As you get older, the chance that if you end up on a ventilator that you're going to die from coronavirus goes up. Above the age of 65, it's about 30%. And every decade after that, it goes up about another 10%. But even if you're young and you're otherwise healthy, if you end up on the ventilator, a 10% chance that you're going to die is not insignificant. I mean, that's a significant chance of death. And you are correct. It is horrible to have to tell people this. It's horrible to have to see the pain in their eyes. I've had to stand in the room because I already have my PPE on getting ready while patients call their family members and say goodbye because they don't know if they're ever going to get to talk to them again. They don't know if they're going to come off the ventilator and get to speak to their children. That first woman I intubated had 2, children who were young adults And I talked to them every day that she was on the ventilator. And fortunately, she got better. She got out of the ICU. She walked out of the hospital. That's one of the greatest professional rewards that I've had in my life, to see that. But at the same time, for every, patient that I see leave the hospital, for every 10 patients that leave the hospital, there's 1 or 2 that don't. And, it's unfair. It's unfair to those patients. It's unfair to their families. It's unfair that they have to see this, and they have to know afterwards that we still have people out there who are pretending that this doesn't exist. We still have people who aren't taking this seriously. And so much of this is preventable. And the problem is there's just so many people in this country that are either stupid or they're just assholes, and they don't care.
Assholes.
And
assholes. Dumb assholes. But look, during this discussion, our incoming CEO emailed us to let us know a Sirius XM employee died from COVID. This is what's going on.
Really?
People are really, yes, that's the truth. It's a horrible thing. And, no matter how many times, Sal puts a clown nose on his penis to cheer everyone up, there's only so much we can do over here. This is real. Cody, you have been an excellent and articulate spokesperson about what the fuck is going on in this country. And I hope you scared the shit out of a couple of people. And maybe the people will start to shame this federal government that is currently in office and say, what have you done? Nothing. And you're sitting there.
It used to be I go to work and I'm scared for the people that I'm taking care of, for their illnesses. But this is something that's preventable. Not only is it preventable, every day I go to work, I'm at a high risk of contracting coronavirus. Critical care doctors amongst physicians were one of the highest professions. So not only am I looking this devil in the face every day, not only am I trying to save people's lives every day, but every day that I go to work, I know that there's a chance that I might be that patient the next day.
Yeah, and here's
Talk
a guy.
about a mind fuck, right?
And here's a guy who went to medical school.
I know that I could be the person who needs to go on a ventilator.
Yeah, and here's this guy who went to medical school, which you know what that means. Ka-ching. If he wasn't working in the ICU, he could make a lot more money, be a lot safer, and he's risking his life. It's just ridiculous.
Well, it's the thing I've said over and over again. Even if you don't care about everybody else, think of the burden you're putting on the medical system and everybody who works in the hospital.
Nah, fuck it.
You're not thinking
care, Robin.
of how hard
They
it's
don't
going
care.
to be to try to save your life.
They're going to tell you fake news. All right,
I
Cody.
saw one story, Howard, where this nurse was crying because she said the whole time the man was dying, he was still saying he didn't have COVID because he didn't believe in it.
Yeah.
But he died.
Yeah. All right, Cody, you've said it all. Thank you. And I thank you for what you're doing. You're a tremendous human being. If, I wouldn't give Rush Limbaugh the Medal of Freedom. I'd give it to you if I was president. That's who would get it. You get it. You're someone who deserves a medal. That's the truth.
Thank you, Howard. Now I'm crying like a little baby, but thank you. People, Robin is correct. Not enough people appreciate. I'm not trying to pat myself on the back. Again, I worked alone. I want to make sure people understand. I do what I do because I love it. Someone has to take care of these patients. Somebody has to be prepared for this. But the truth of the matter is there's so many people that are putting their lives at risk every single day to take care of these patients. And it is largely thankless. And, I will tell you in the beginning of this pandemic in March and April, people used to send food into the hospital for the healthcare workers. They used to make signs for us. That's all gone now. People are bored with this. People don't want to move on.
Yeah, they've moved on.
Ready to move on. Yep.
They've all moved on. I don't get to move on because I have to see it every day. So I want everyone else to know that too. Thank you for taking the time to listen. I love you guys. I appreciate your show. I know that we make jokes about your show and people think it's not important, but I cannot overstate it that you have gotten me through some very, very difficult times in my life. And just being able to listen to your show and laugh and forget some of the things I see has been invaluable. So you are a part of the coronavirus response. You have helped us to be able to help other people. And thank you for that.
Thank you, Dr. Cody. All right. Thank you very much.
Hi, Fred. Thank you, too. Thank you, Fred.
No need to thank Fred.
Fred is the hero of the whole thing.
Fred is a real hero over there. I know he is. I don't know why, but I know he is.
I'll just say thanks to the doctor.
Leave it at that, Fred. Thank you, Dr. Cody. There you go. Oh, here's a guy. Oh, we got to take this. This is Dave.
What?
He's sick of the COVID. What is it, Dave?
Oh, forget it. Why are you doing this?
Come on, it's fun. Go ahead, Dave.
Howard, come on,
Yes.
what the fuck is going? This is all we got to listen to every fucking day. If this is how your last shows are going to be, who gives a fuck if you resign? You're going to come back and fucking the new year, and then we're going to go over this again. The fucking virus is going to be vaccinated. It's going to be over with. Why do we got to listen to this every fucking day?
Wow.
It's fucking
Amazing.
ridiculous. It's like that's all we're listening to every fucking day. 9 months now.
We're in a
every day, every
crisis,
week.
Dave. How many times? Listen,
All right,
how
come
many
on,
times?
Come on, Howard.
How
Did you
many
hear the
times?
guy-
Be
did you hear
honest.
the
How many
Cody guy?
times do I really? Well, how many times do I really pick up on the phone on
We
a
just
doctor?
been
This is
listening to it for the
one
last
time.
hour. Did you hear the
Oh,
guy?
bullshit.
How about the body guy? How about the body guy? He says they're old. The people are light. They're old. Those are the people that are weak immune systems. The people that
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
come on.
What
Howard,
about
this is driving me
wearing a
fucking
mask? Oh God.
nuts. Okay, wear the
Help
mask.
us.
Okay, I don't care about the mask, but you got to listen. We gotta
Oh my God. Wow. Well, that's what we're dealing with. I have Dr. Cody. This guy, he's with Dr. Demento. He should be listening to him. I don't get what's going on. I really appreciate that guy's phone call. I truly do. I think what he had to say is a real eye opener.
It was funny
And-
because I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday, and she had a neighbor who has, been flaunting the rules and doing everything wrong. And she finally had a checkup with her personal physician. And she told the personal physician that her son was going away and she was going to babysit for him. And the doctor yelled at her and told her, you'd better take precautions because if you get COVID, you're not going to survive. And now she believes.
She
Because
believes.
she finally went to the doctor. But all this time, she was dancing with the devil playing Russian roulette. But now she understands and she's staying in the house.
What do you say? Russian roulette? It's Sal, isn't it? Rush and roulette?
Rush
sorry.
and roulette.
Rush and roulette.
Russian.
All right,
Get it
guys.
right, Robin.
All right. I happen to like what Cody the doctor had to say. So thank you for that phone call, Gary.
Yes.
Let's get to cleaning up the computer.
Sure.
It is late in the show, but I do want to at least get to one of these things because, as you know, should I leave the radio? I do not want to leave these things in the computer. I feel the
You
people
know
need
what
to hear
these
them.
things will be like? They'll be your unpublished music.
That's right. They'll be my vaults.
There'll be vaults and vaults of material that never made it to the air.
You bet. You bet. Gary, I saw you tear up during that doctor's.
Twice.
Yeah.
Twice.
I thought he was very.
Listen, if I talk about it now, I'll probably cry. But we don't know what my father-in-law went through, and now I know. Hearing him talk, and it's just really, it just makes me sad, and it bums me out that guy. Like, we had a real doctor call in, right? A real doctor, a guy who's a doctor who's in there every day, and another guy calls and says it's bullshit. Like, why won't we believe doctors?
I don't know.
It all comes from the. It all comes from the top. Listen, I think I don't want to rant too much, but I think like that bar owner in Staten Island, right?
Yeah,
That
that's
got
what I
arrested
kept
for, the third
thinking
time.
about during the whole thing.
Like, the only if our president had said from the beginning, this is what we got to do, that guy would be like a flat earther. Like, he'd be one lone guy. Instead, there's 1,000 people in front of his bar supporting him. And I understand too, because the government failed us twice. They failed us with the COVID, and they failed us with these people who own. I saw these people in California who own restaurants. The woman's like, "We're done. They shut us down. We're done. My whole life savings is gone." And I understand that too, but it has to be done. But the government didn't help anybody. There's fucking bills sitting on somebody's desk while people are just shutting their businesses down.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chris from Jersey's on the air.
Howard, that was one of the most sensible, intelligent interviews I've heard in 30 years of listening to you. You somehow have to put that on your channel and make it shareable.
I will. I will.
Never have I heard it articulated that good before.
Me neither. I thought that guy was amazing. Thanks for saying that, Chris, because, You get the maniacs who go, what are we talking about this for? Come on, get Sal's fucking asshole out and let Richard eat it. Let's get down to it. Once in a while, we can listen to something important. I mean, right? Thank you.
Absolutely.
I can't say it better than that.
Prevalent.
Exactly. Gary, let's switch if you can pull yourself together, and let's clean out the computer. Sitting in front of me is Gary, Mike Trainor, Sal, and Chris Wilding. And, I want to clean out the computer. So, Gary, go ahead. Give us, what do you have?
Okay. I have become, during the pandemic, obsessed with Karens. I just scour the internet looking for Karens making fools of themselves. And like I found an Instagram thing called Karen's Gone Wild. I just put Karen's going crazy into a search, and the videos that come up are fucking endlessly entertaining.
Let me ask you something, because I'm out of it. I must be, maybe this is a sign of the times. What the fuck is, when did this word Karens become a big thing? Give me the history.
I don't know the history of it, but I can tell you what a Karen is. First of all, you have to be white. You have to be a little entitled, middle-aged, usually a short haircut, but not always. And, it's a Karen is like Mrs. Kravitz on Bewitched was a Karen. The woman at the counter that says, let me see your manager. That's a Karen. So,
That's a
Karen knows what. And the other thing about Karens that I love is they instantly, especially during this, they instantly have become lawyers and doctors. I know what my legal rights are, or I don't have to wear a mask because I know that it causes carbon dioxide.
So the definition of a Karen is, like you say, Mrs. Kravitz on Bewitched, for those of us who remember her. She was always looking out the window and watching what Samantha and Darren were doing and